Today's lesson is on leads. What is a lead? Well, a lead in a narrative is the beginning of a story. It is the hook. A hook, in this example, this is a fishing hook, but a hook is a beginning of a story, a beginning of a piece of writing that grabs the reader, that makes the reader want to read the rest of the story. In this instance, we are going to take the hook, and it will be strong, and it is going to grab the reader and bring them in so that they are now immersed in the story. They want to read. So a strong hook will grab the reader's attention. It will carry them away and make them want to read the rest of the story. Now we're going to look at some different types of leads. The first one we're going to look at is a talking lead. A talking lead begins the story with dialogue. Now, we have two examples. The first example is, there was a bat in our house last summer. That's pretty boring. A better example is, quick, hit the floor, my dad yelled. Whatever you do, don't look up. My mother added as I dropped to the floor and slid myself under my bed. It was a terrifying night for my family when we discovered a bat in our house. Both of them say the same thing. However, this one says it in a much better way. Another very popular lead is a sound effect lead. This lead gets the reader quickly involved in the story by starting with an event or some kind of action. A boring version of this lead would be, there was a loud storm outside my house last night. A much better version would be, smash! The window cracked, the wind howled, and the door flung open. Rain poured in through the screen, drenching the welcome mat inside our house. I will never forget the fierce storm that invaded my house last night. Another type of lead for narrative stories is an action lead. You can get the reader quickly involved in the story by starting with an exciting event or some kind of action. Often when I begin my stories, I like to start almost in the middle of the story. Maybe not quite in the middle, but I like to start where some action begins. Here's a boring example. I was excited for my birthday party. Here's a much better example. I threw on my favorite red dress and scrambled down the stairs as fast as I could. It was my 8th birthday, and I couldn't wait for the party to begin. Now I'd like to look at the better sentence and figure out why it's better. What makes it better? We start off with, I threw on my favorite red dress. Very specific. Scrambled down the stairs. Good choice of words. It is an action word. And we're saying what happened as fast as I could. More descriptions. It was my 8th birthday. If you look up here, it just said for my birthday party. Here, it's specific. My 8th birthday. I couldn't wait for the party to begin. I noticed quite a bit of specifics, details, and you are setting the scene. You scramble down the stairs. This person's really setting the scene well. I can see what's going on in this second sentence. Another example of leads are snapshot leads. When you paint a picture with words, you draw the reader in. Ice skating is my favorite sport. Okay? Now let's look at a better one. It's 10 degrees below zero, and the river is frozen a foot thick. It makes snapping sounds like the limbs of a tree cracking. A lone figure glides along the black ice, moving towards the city. The only sound is the scraping of each blade as it bites into the river. That's me doing my favorite sport, ice skating. I'm going to go through, and I'm going to circle all the descriptive words. 10 degrees below zero. It's giving us the temperature. The river is frozen a foot thick. It doesn't just say it's frozen. It's very frozen. It means it's been cold for a while. It makes snapping sounds. We talk about sensory all the time, snapping sounds. That is auditory. It's actually auditory and feeling, because maybe you feel the movement of the ice, like the limbs of a tree cracking. It's a metaphor. I'm sorry, simile, not metaphor. A lone figure glides. I can see that picture in my head. Along the black ice, moving towards the city. The only sound is the scraping that each blade as it bites into the river. I mean, whoever wrote this just did a phenomenal job of painting a picture in our heads. And then the person went on to say, that's me doing my favorite sport, ice skating. I love it, though. I mean, this is very well done. This paints such a vivid picture. Our next lead that we're going to look at is called a question lead. This lead begins by asking an interesting question. Here's a boring type. In this story, I will tell you about playing football with my friends. Better, in what sport can you tackle opponents, catch 30-yard touchdown passes in overtime, and sack the quarterback before he can even complete a pass? In football, of course. It's my favorite sport. The author in this one really set it up well with not three questions, but he's asking a question here, or she, asking a question here, and asking a question here. So even though it is one sentence, it's a compound sentence, and it asks three questions within the sentence. Very well done. And then, in football, of course, it is my favorite sport. The last lead that we're going to go over today is the flashback lead. This lead takes the reader back to a specific event in the past that relates to the topic. I am going to underline specific event. It flashes you back to something in the past that relates to this topic. A boring way to do this would be, I remember the time when I won the game for my team. Yes, you're flashing back, you're remembering to a time, but it doesn't really give us much. A much better one would be, I could feel the sweat pouring off my body as I watched the seconds tick off the clock. It was as if I was dribbling in slow motion, weaving in and out of the defenders and heading towards the hoop. As the buzzer sounded, I felt the ball roll off my fingertips, and I watched anxiously as it spun around the rim for what seemed like an eternity. I finally heard the swish of the net. I had won the game for my team. This sets the scene. It gives us a feeling. It makes us feel like we are there. Now, I'm going to go through and I'm going to underline square everything that is sensory detail. So, sensory detail, again, people, is anything that we can feel, smell, taste, hear, and see. So let's go through. I could feel the sweat pouring off my body. That is a feeling. As I watched the seconds tick off the clock. It was as if I was dribbling in slow motion. So it's not, yes, dribbling is a feeling, but it doesn't just say how you're dribbling. It also is giving you how the dribbling felt. Weaving in and out of the defenders, heading toward the hoop. Weaving would also be a feeling, but I'm going to leave that be for now. As the buzzer sounded a sound, I felt the ball roll off my fingertips. I can actually feel that happening to my hand. And I watched anxiously, a descriptive word, as it spun around the rim for what seemed like an eternity. Now this one I'm going out on a limb, but I could say that that's a feeling. I felt like it was lasting forever. I finally heard the swish of the net. And I had won the game for my team. This author did a great job of adding sensory detail. feelings, smells, tastes, sounds, and sights. Amazing. Very well done. In conclusion, a good lead, a strong lead, will grab your readers and bring them into your story. Think of leads as a first impression. If you make a strong first impression, a great first impression, then people are going to want to read the story. They're going to want to see what you have to say. Your lead has to do that for your paper. Go write them.